Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimura from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Welcome to episode 155 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today the founder of Steiner Sports, Brendan Steiner. Great conversation, great story. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Brendan Steiner. What is up, brother?
How you doing? And well, first, thanks for having me. And I know you're a big collector and a big fan. And I always start off with gratitude and, thank you for the support. I never take any relationship or customer for granted, especially in this day and age. It's not easy. So thank you. Good. I think so. I'm all right.
Let's start that again.
All right.
We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm super excited to have on today Brendan Steiner. What is up, brother?
Hey, hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me. Just appreciate you. I know you're a big collector. And look, I've had a great run, and I never take any of my, the potential customers or fans of what we're doing for granted, because, in this day and age, it's hard to build up an audience. It's hard to build a fan base. And especially I started a new company 2 years ago. Like, it's not easy, starting over and you see who your friends are, and you realize all that loyalty and love you give to your customers, which I think sometimes people forget in this day and age. Like, you got to love your customers. Don't just expect that they're going to come. You got to love them, and you got to love them, and you got to love them and love them. Having a customer buy stuff from you is a privilege, and you should not take it for granted.
I love that.
Just saying.
Well, let's start off. We'll get into your story of how you got into sports memorabilia and your love for sports. Let's start off by, where'd you grow up? How many siblings you have? Give me a little rundown of Brendan as a child.
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, 539 Kings Highway, over at Glock Kosher Butcher, 2 brothers, single parent, $60 a month rent. We had trouble making that rent. We had heat in the summer. We had air conditioning in the winter. It wasn't pretty, and when you live over a butcher, I lived over a Glock Kosher Butcher. And then Glock Kosher Butcher, for those who don't know, that's where they kill the chickens in the shop. So right underneath my window every morning, my alarm clock would be chickens getting their heads cut off. It wasn't a very comfortable environment to grow up in, but it was a good neighborhood. My mother believed that we should live in a good neighborhood, even though our circumstances sucked. And even though we were the poorest people in the neighborhood, which is definitely humbling, but you don't want to be, I'd rather be the poorest person in a rich neighborhood than the richest person in a poor neighborhood. I think it's, you're just a complete underdog. There's nowhere to go but up, is how I looked at it. And I saw a lot of people with wealth and a lot of people that had a lot of things, but, they may have been, their circumstances may have been rich, but personally, I didn't see the wealth. And I always thought that, my circumstances were poor, but I always had the ability to do whatever I wanted to do. And my mother confirmed that on a regular basis. Like, you can have any of this stuff. That's the easy part, knowing what you want once you get it, and wanting it once you get it is important. So for me, I work since I'm 10 years old, which is very rare. I have kids and everything, and I have 3 kids. They're pretty much all grown up, but, at 10 years old, they weren't getting up, going to work at 10. Trust me, they were tough getting them up, let alone getting them breakfast and getting them dressed. So I was an unusual kid, very entrepreneurial. Right from the start. There was nobody who hustled more than me in my neighborhood, worked more than me, worked harder than me. I still feel that way now, frankly.
I know. I had this discussion with, this is the $1 million question. I have this discussion all the time with other entrepreneurs are you born an entrepreneur, or can you teach somebody to be an entrepreneur? And I'm a strong believer you can teach somebody the skills, you teach them the lessons, you give them the tools. You can't teach the hustle. The hustle has to be born in you. So I love.
Well, I don't know. I don't even know about that. I don't know about that. I think that we all can be taught entrepreneurship skills. That I agree. But I think the circumstances is what is, and you create those circumstances in your own head.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, entrepreneurship is something desperately needed in this country and this world. We need it desperately. And if you want to be more entrepreneurialistic, you just need to have more empathy and more compassion. So if you want somebody to have more entrepreneurial skills, push them to be more compassionate, have more empathy. And the definition of empathy is to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. When you put yourself in someone else's shoes, a common person's shoes, that's where your common sense rises. If you can increase your common sense by increasing your empathy about getting in someone else's shoes, that's how you can rise and raise someone's level of entrepreneurship. Because the high level, I would say common sense isn't always common practice, but common sense must always dictate. And when you can get into a high level of compassion and empathy by putting yourself in other people's shoes, is only if and then you see the white space. Yeah. So yes, you can teach people to be more entrepreneurial, but you can also get people to be more entrepreneurial by getting to be have more empathy, having more compassion. Because the more they can put themselves in other people's shoes, feel what other people are feeling, think what other people are thinking, that's what spurs on entrepreneurship. And you can then see what other people need. The problem and the reason why people are more entrepreneurial, not because they don't have a born again in them, is they just can't get out of their own freaking head. They're so self-consumed with what they need, what they want, as opposed to getting consumed about serving and looking at what other people need. My mother was always relentless on me to be a solution-based business person. So even at 10 years old, thinking about what other people in the neighborhood needed help with, not poor, woe is me, I got no money, I got no clothes, but what other people need. That'll lead you to finding out what services or what problems you can solve. And that'll lead you to helping you figure out how to make money and make a difference in the industry or a difference in a job.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about what you deserve and start thinking about what the world presents. In order to figure out what the world presents versus what you need or what you think you should be getting, you got to get out of your head. And that's how you can increase your level of entrepreneurship. Very simply, increase your common freaking sense. And when you ask my kids, like, is your dad smart? They'll go, he's not that smart, but he's got an incredible high level of common sense. Exactly. I have the ability of getting out of my head, not thinking so much about myself, and just thinking about externally about other people's emotions, other people's thoughts, what people in droves or singularly are thinking about these days. And then I find that space and I attack it because I know that's what people want.
I love it. I love it. Where was your first interaction with sports? Where did the love for sports begin?
I mean, we grew up with sports. We didn't know about sports business, but we played sports 24/7. It was my office. Sports was my crutch. It was my escape. You living in a cockroach infested, really small apartment. You got to do something to take you away from that. And going to the schoolyard and playing sports 24/7. Gave me a place to go as opposed to being home.
Did you ever play competitively or have any inkling to make it a profession at a young age?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, but my talent level, now that's another thing. Can you be born that game or can you be taught? But my mother went to one game of mine in my entire childhood, and I was a relentless.
What was your sport?
Basketball.
Basketball. Still at it,
played some football, but played basketball. I completely thought I was going to go to the NBA, 100%. And my mother went to one game of mine, one football and one basketball game in my entire life. And I played a lot of Little League and I played the JCC. Yeah. In Brooklyn, I grew up in Brooklyn, you got to be like 6'8" to even, just to get on a team. Yeah. So my mother goes to the game, talks to the coach. After the game, she drives home and says, listen, I don't want to, I just want to break the news to you. Like, I don't know any other 5'6", 5'7" white Jewish kid that's in the NBA. Can you find one? Because if you can find one, then I believe maybe you go to the NBA. But I can be honest with you, I think you could do anything you set your heart to, but I don't think you're going to the NBA. And that was really hard to hear that. I mean, I was playing 5-6 hours a day. And, I realize now that, I had a high level of mediocre talent. I'm a rec player at best. I mean, I couldn't even make a varsity team. But that was when my mother told me, she's like, I'm not sending you to a regular high school. I'm sending you to this new high school that opened up in Coney Island. It's a non-competition, pass, fail high school you have to apply to get into. There are no teams. So I know you'll be like, like a Rudy. You will do everything you can to be the last guy somehow on one of those teams, and it's not going to take you anywhere. And you need to actually start getting into education. And that was great advice from my mom, because I have some learning disabilities growing up, and I didn't read and write well at all, to say the least. And to get into education at that particular point of my life, and the importance of learning, even though I didn't like school, I needed school. And it really gave me the essence of learning and where learning can take you. Yeah. And I'm still at 62, an incredible learner.
I love that.
Not a great student, but a great learner, and always have a high level of curiosity. And I really credit John Dewey High School for that.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 five-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
I love it. So what's your first dip into being an entrepreneur? Like, I started when I was 17. What age did you actually start a company or start that venture as a quote unquote entrepreneur, like starting your own business?
I went to see my mom. I told her I needed a career change. I'd been through a few different jobs at this point.
How old were you?
I was 12. And my mother's like, she's like, you're 12. Are you kidding me? You got to be kidding me. And so I was like, I said, I'm working every day after school. I'm working every Saturday. Like, something's got to break here. And I was like,
tilt it up a bit.
Yeah, okay, there. So I'm going to get my thing here. It's going to help us. So I'm 12 years old, and I'm trying to figure it out.
There you go. Perfect.
So I'm 12 years old. I'm trying to figure it out. And my mother says, go to the corner of Avenue X and East 3rd Street. There's a newspaper route store. You go there, you apply for a route, and they'll give you a route. You can deliver newspapers. You could work in the morning. You collect the money on Thursday nights. You wake up really early, and you can be free every day after school. You're free during the weekends. It's great. I go to the paper route store. I see a sign in the window that's going to change my life. Whoever opens up the most accounts, if you open up the most accounts this week, you win a box of candy bars. And I told people, I saw the light at an early age, and I told you I had air conditioning in the winter and heat in the summer. Winning a box of candy bars, I saw the light at an early age. Unfortunately, it was the refrigerator light because it was empty. I was starving. Bringing home a box of candy bars would have been a home run. So I started trying to open up, accounts. I'm knocking on doors. Now in Brooklyn, they have these big buildings, and I finally stumbled upon this older woman, well in her 70s. I said, ma'am, I got nothing's happening. But I finally get to this woman. I see a stack of newspapers right inside her door. She says, no, I don't want to get the paper delivered. I said, it's the same price. It's 8 cents from me, 8 cents from the corner store. She says, yeah, but then I got to tip you. I go home and I tell my mom, we got to move. This neighborhood sucks. The people are cheap. The excuses. And my mother says, sit down. I'm going to tell you this once and tell you this once only. You got to stop selling. I said, Mom, I've been all over the place trying to open up accounts. Nothing. She said, stop selling. Start serving. Solve a problem. Be a solution-based business person. Try to find how you can help somebody. You can't sell the same thing that everybody else is selling and expect people to buy it. You got to differentiate yourself. Okay? I go back out. I'm knocking on doors. I'm not going to lie. I mean, zero. Nothing.
Yeah.
I go back to this woman at about 10 at night. The lady is going crazy. Like, you're knocking on my door at 10 at night. Are you crazy? I said, ma'am, I just need a minute. said, I told you, I don't want to get the paper delivered. Just 1 minute. I said, if there's torrential downpour, snowstorm, heat wave, ice on the ground, a woman such as yourself should not have to be going out getting the paper, let alone some of the other essential stuff that you need. If I bring you milk and bagels every Wednesday and Sunday, the newspaper every morning, regardless of the weather, I'll be there by 7:30. Would you get the paper delivered? She says, you would do that for me? So I was concerned. She not only got the paper delivered, but she was the mayor, the neighbor. She turned me on to everyone. I went from 29 dailies to 235 and 199 Sundays. I won 2 boxes of candy bars. And how that story really comes around, I hope it relates to the people listening, is that, first of all, you really listen to your customers. And again, what really is amazing when I think back in my beginning of my business career, and was at that moment of the high level of empathy and the high level of compassion, that as a 12-year-old, I was able to get into an elderly, in her 70s woman's head to think about something that she would need, what it would be like to be her, and what service I could provide her. And I give myself a lot of credit for that. Not only the hustle and delivering 200 papers a day, which is unbelievable too, and I had a lot of swagger, but the fact that I was able to get into people in the neighborhood's head, and I'm delivering more bagels, milk, and everything else. So when I say to you about, if you want to improve your entrepreneurial skills, improve your compassion, increase your empathy, get out of your head. And it's what I've been doing ever since for the last 50 years, literally, is not worrying about what I can get, but what I can give. When I meet a Derek Jeter or when I met up with the Yankees, I wasn't thinking, which is what most people think, what can I get out of this? This is unbelievable. All these things that these could do for me. I was thinking about even the Yankees, what I could do for them. And they didn't need me. I mean, they're the Yankees, they're the biggest brand, but what can I do to help them? And it was that led us to Yankee Steiner at the time.
Yeah.
And it was that led to a 20-year relationship with Jeter. So, when I start my new company, Collectible Exchange, now it's the same thing. Like, what do athletes need? And they wanted a platform. So I built a platform for over 80 athletes on my new exchange. You have all these older people that have been collecting for years. So my Collectible Exchange is a marketplace. Again, get out of your head. All these people are sitting with hundreds of items. I built a marketplace for them to put this stuff up that gives you more guidance, gives you more advice, gives you the ability to get things authenticated. All the stuff that eBay doesn't do, I do. And that's by turning up my compassion, turning up my empathy, putting myself in other people's shoes, and then coming up with a solution that serves people and makes sense. I'm sorry, you don't have to be born with that. Yeah. It's like, get out of your freaking head and start getting into some other people's heads and other people's emotions, and you'll be surprised what you come up with.
When did you start Steiner Sports?
In 1987.
How old were you?
I was, I think 29 or 30. Yeah, in 1988, 1987, 88, I was like 30, about 30.
Who was your first athlete signing?
Well, before that, I worked with Walt Frazier, the Nick guard, number 10, Clyde. And I had done a bunch of stuff. I would open up a bunch of sports bars before sports bars became sports bars. I'd open up one of the first. So that was kind of the big, wow, I think I can market athletes, because I was running Clyde all over the place and people kept calling me can you get this? Can you get me that?
Yeah.
And so the first real athlete that I worked with probably was Otis Anderson in the early 90s. I'd signed him up after his Super Bowl MVP run. And Phil Rizzuto in 94. He got into the Hall of Fame after a long run. Yeah. He was 77 when I got him, but that was a big coming out party for me there. Mark Messier was the first player on the Memorabilia end where I signed him up right after he won the Cup. He was a big name already, huge name in New York, and he took a liking to me, and he was the first guy that I signed. And obviously, the Yankee run in the mid-90s really propelled and pushed the collectible company to a level that I hadn't even seen. Just didn't see it even coming.
No, you guys became the leader in the industry without even hesitation, which was incredible. Of all the athletes, do you have one or two good stories of Jeter or Messi or some stuff just to ring by?
I mean, so many, and there's only one reason. When you're around an extraordinary person, let alone an athlete, I think there's only one reason that you should focus in on is trying to find out the secret to the sauce. I think, when you come upon the best waiter, the person who cleans, the person who sweeps the streets, the best doctor, lawyer. Like, man, those are far and few between. Like, you gotta. So one of the things, I love meeting these athletes, but I got over it really quick, and I started realizing that I need to be a collector of that secret sauces that made them what they are today. Because a lot of people think like great athletes, well, they're just born with it, and some are. There are some exceptions, but most of them, there's a lot of ways it could go. There are a lot of athletes that the line between it, somebody making it and not making it, and let alone being great. You get your Jordan, you get your Wilt Chamberlain, let's say, but most the bulk of your athletes that you meet are very, very. A thin line between the difference. So, like, I was in Tampa. This is actually a really pivotal story, and I didn't see it coming. I'm in Tampa. I'm in the stands. I'm watching an exhibition game. I'm meeting Mariano there afterwards. And about the sixth inning, all of a sudden, Mariano comes to stand next to me. I'm not going to lie. It was cool. I'm sitting there watching Yankee with Mariano. This is a little early on in his career. And I said, well, I was supposed to meet you after the game. And I thought you were going to pitch at the end of the game. He goes, no, I asked Joe to put me in the middle of the game. I said, yeah, it's just an exhibition game. No big deal. He goes, no big deal. I get those guys out 1, 2, 3, 8 pitches. I said, yeah, but it's an exhibition game. He goes, Brandon, there's no such thing as a big game. I go on the mound in spring training the same way I go on the mound in a World Series Game 7, in the middle of the season, early in the season. It doesn't matter the score. I go on. Everything's on the line. I pitched that inning the same way I would have pitched in the World Series Game 7. The problem with people is that they start differentiating what a big game is and what a big game isn't. When I get into a Game 7 situation, I don't have to alter anything because everything is in place for me to be the best I could be. I don't have to upgrade my thinking, my mechanics. Everything's exactly the same. And I put the same pressure. You have to put pressure on yourself all the time. So when different circumstances occur, you don't have to alter your thinking. And I thought it was one of the great lessons I learned from Mariano, because how many times do you see people that say, oh, I got a big meeting. Oh, it's a big day. What are you saying about all the other meetings? What are you saying about all the other days? Every day should be a big day.
Yeah,
and I think that it's really important that there's no such thing as a big game. One of the valuable lessons I learned from, so many stories, but that I learned from Jeter is preparation. He was a big preparation guy. I'd never like to be surprised on any level. Yeah. If we said we're going to sign for 30 minutes with 200 items, he didn't want you to come in with 250. And it was just his way of thinking. I want to be prepared for anything and everything that I'm about to deal with. Yeah. He says, Brandon, when there's a man on first and I'm at shortstop, in between every pitch, up to like 2,000 things could happen. I'm thinking of it now. I've been playing shortstop for so long. I'm thinking of every combination of every possible thing can happen between the speed of the runner, the way the pitcher's pitching, where he's pitching, the guy that's on first, how fast he is. I'm thinking of all the possibilities. It gets hit to right field, center field, ground ball here, ground ball there. I'm thinking of every remote possibility that's going on in my head so that when it happens, I'm prepared.
Yeah. And
this way, it's no big deal. And I always say that if you have confidence, there's no such thing as stress. It really is very, very overrated. Because if you have confidence in your ability, and you have confidence in your strategy and faith in God, there is no reason for you to be out of whack. You're prepared. You have faith in a higher power. You have faith in your ability, and you have faith in your strategy, which is your preparation for what's about to happen. There's only 2 things you should be worried about. And people worry about a million things. There's only 2 things. There's what just happened and dealing with it, or there's what's about to happen. That's all you worry about. Yeah. Anything else, go to a bar and get a drink or get a bong and smoke a joint, whatever. It's just a waste of time. Worry about what just happened and deal with it, or worry about what's about to happen. And that's the only 2 things you should worry about. And one of the things I learned from Derek is like, get prepared, man. Think about all the possibilities and prepare for it. So when it happens, it's no biggie. Yeah. You're ready.
He was a very special player. Very, very special player.
And really, when you think about the talent level,
of course.
I'm not here to, he was a very talented player, but what made him extraordinary, I don't think was his talent, but it was his level of leadership by example, his level of preparation, being a good teammate, all those little things. You have to be ready for anything that can happen and what you're going to do. Even the dive in the stands, he had experienced a dive in the stands prior to that. And he knew what potentially could happen, but he was willing to risk it. So it's just so many learning lessons from all these guys that, I go on and on. I could probably go on for hours, but I've been really blessed that you're blessed because you get to meet these guys, but the real blessing is what you can learn from them. And I think that the world is a classroom. Everybody's a teacher. So you got to kind of take that approach with everybody, especially when you run into someone extraordinary, because those are the people that went past success. They went past pretty good. And that's the stuff you want to grab and learn, and incorporate into your own style.
When you're dealing with the memorabilia business, and when eBay came flying out and memorabilia kind of took over eBay for quite a few years, when something like this comes to light, there's always a negative side to everything when it comes to the forgeries and all that stuff like that. How did that negatively impact the industry?
Well, I mean, the truth though is, the truth will set you free, but it'll piss you off first.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of bad fake stuff. It helped me because I was doing everything right.
Yeah.
And had I was able to build an incredible vote of trust with fans and customers. People know that anything I got involved with collectibles was real and they could trust it. So now when I start my new company, like Collectible Exchanges, it's people trust it. They know anything Brandon's touching, it's real. He knows what he's doing. Because it isn't a 2-lane highway trust. You know what I mean? Trust isn't a 2-lane highway. It's a 1-way highway. You're either on the right way or you're done.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of things that are 2 ways, not trust. And when you get to collectibles, there is no gray area.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a great opportunity for me to shine of the right way to do things. And that's why we really exploded, is because we had a very creative way of doing things, and only the right way was the only way. So it's the same thing here now. Like there is no gray area. And we're very, very, very tough on the people that put stuff. We have 150,000 things on the site. We're climbing up. We'll have 250 by the end of the year. We're climbing, going after eBay because we don't think they do a good job, because they don't focus in on right and wrong. We're constantly zoning in on the site, removing things, making sure the site is clean. So when people buy things, they're comfortable and they know they're buying real stuff. So I think overall, the industry's cleaned itself up a lot, because a lot of players, the real autographs have been documented. There is ways to get things authenticated.
Yeah.
And the business is much healthier, which I feel good about, than when I found it. I think you go into any industry, the only goal you should have is to fix what's broken and to take what exists and make it better. And you want to have the industry or the business that you go into be better off because you were in it. Yeah, and that was always my goal growing up. I want to go into an industry, make it better. And I want it to be better because I was in it, and make a difference in the industry. That's all I really wanted from a business standpoint. I feel like I've in some sense accomplished that. That's fans and them enjoying stuff is a really big deal to me. And bringing joy and bringing them close to the game is a big deal. Every time that I would get a letter from a fan that got something that really made a difference, that's a big deal to me. Yeah. More than the money, more than anything. So, and I continue to like doing it, otherwise I would just retire. I still like doing it. I still love when I get a note from, 11-year-old that just got something from his favorite player, or we're able to do something differently, which I've done, TV shows, and I've done hookups and, connected, all kinds of different people with meeting their idols and everything else. Like, I love that stuff. And that's all stuff that I've created, and maybe in some cases the first to do it.
Of all the athletes that you've worked with over the years, who are the 1 or 2 or 3 that you've built really, really like lifetime relationships with?
I mean, I think, starting with Mark Messier. I mean, Mark is...
He just came out with his book.
Which, for years, he's never doing that. And then he's on ESPN now, which is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark's the real deal. He's taught me so much about family, about loyalty, and also keeping your tribe small.
Yeah.
He's not confusing. Like, Mark is a big deal. He's a big name. He never wanted to have all kinds of hanger-oners, all kinds of people, family. And it was a very distinct group of friends. And he was sticking with that. And I love that loyalty. And it showed me at an early age what was important, which is your family and your friends, your real friends.
Yeah.
So he was a tremendous influence. Loved him. And I have so many athletes that I've been able to maintain relationships over the years with, that I'm extremely grateful. Still work with Mariano to this day, helping raise money for his foundation and doing his autographs and stuff like that. And I don't know, something about him that we just hooked up and we just end up doing a lot of stuff together. And we have this love-hate, nobody gives me more crap than Mariano. And I try to reciprocate as often as I can because, he's the unanimous Hall of Famer, the greatest of all time. And
yeah, that's crazy.
I try to remind him that, that's just part of the story. And we always laugh at each other, go, we're not perfect. We know that. And he's been a tremendous influence. I love Aaron Boone, the current Yankee manager. Love him.
I had on my show Brett Boone, his brother, which is he's trying to become a manager. He has his own podcast now, and he's trying to had him on, and we've built a little relationship. And he wants to become a manager in the major leagues. That's his goal. He wants to follow his brother's footsteps. But yeah, incredible family like lineage, man, incredible.
Absolutely special.
Yeah, very, very special. So, how about Jeter? Do you keep still a good relationship with Jeter?
I mean, he's an owner. We don't have as much of a business relationship. Love Jeter, great guy, and wish him all the luck with the Marlins. But he's a little bit out of my comfort zone from a business standpoint. Yeah.
So, what's your involvement with Steiner Sports now? Are you still heavily involved in it?
Not at all.
So you're not involved at all now? You're totally out of that.
Yeah, I'm out of Steiner Sports. I mean, there was a little bit of a hostile takeover there with Fanatics, which I really don't want to get into a whole thing about it, but it wasn't a happy ending. But it was a great company. It was a company that obviously Michael wanted, and he got it. And at the time, I definitely wanted a change, and I was in the process of buying the company back, and he ended up getting it. But I'm also very grateful that I love building stuff. So to have something at the beginning, and to build something that I don't know if I could have built what I'm building. Like what I built the last 2 years was something I wanted to do at Steiner, and I just couldn't do it because we were doing things differently. I wanted more of a marketplace. I wanted to have partnerships with the players. Yeah. So I'm partners with all my players. Like I started a thing called The Collective. I have about 25 women that I built out microsites for. I've started the first marketplace for women collectibles. No, never been done. At Steiner, that just didn't have a big upside. To be honest with you, I don't know if the freaking thing's even going to work. I love the women athletes. I think they're special. They're worth investing in. I think they're worth the investment. I think that they're the real deal. I think that people underestimate women athletes, and I don't. Yeah. So to me, and I'm just saying, like at Steiner, I couldn't have done that. Like, wouldn't have been a big enough return. I would have done the spreadsheets. What's the return? I'll figure out the return. So I'm gonna figure it out, guy. And I don't want to.
Do you have any regrets? I shouldn't say regrets, but do you have any collisions or times you sit back and you were like, I wish Steiner Sports would have never have grown the way it's grown, more it was more grassroots the way it started, because it grew into this massive company, and obviously at the end there was it didn't go the way you went, and your name's attached to it, right? Which is I regret losing my name. It's my name, and I put a lot. But on the other hand, people know Brandon Steiner, and they know that Brandon Steiner supersedes Steiner. Yeah. And there is no real Steiner in my mind without Brandon Steiner, if you want to know. No, without question. Yeah. So it wasn't like there was this big company and we're not sure who the hell was behind it and who else pulled all that together. Yeah. People know that's Brandon Steiner, and now Brandon Steiner's here. But you have regrets. I think more of my regrets are more focused on relationships, employees that, I should have fired a lot sooner than I did, employees that I should have kept and not let go and dealt with differently and better. Yeah. Whenever you sell a company, I sold my company in 2000, which is what enabled, the end. But, you lose control of your company. Like, do you regret that? Yeah, to some degree, because as you acquire talent and have really cool people working for you, they want ownership. They want more skin in the game, and you don't have the skin to give them. Yeah. And I hadn't really thought about that. So, I think about that now with my new company as more of an employee stock. And I think about having them more involved in ownership than I am about, going to, and I never really thought about selling this thing and making $1 gazillion. Yeah. To be honest with you, I never thought about the money. I don't think about the money now. Like, I just think about building something great. But if you're worrying about the money, you probably should just check out and find something else to do.
It's easy to say that now because I have a lot of money, but that's not the way I roll anyway, even when I didn't have the money. You know what I mean? That's not the way you roll. But what's interesting is that I love building stuff, and I realize the value of building it with my people in the longer term. At the time when that thing started getting so big, I really needed the partner and I needed the financing because it was starting to really rock and roll. And I was either going to be partners with a bank or a private equity, or I found this other partner. So that's how it went.
Yeah.
Decisions, moments of time, man. They're just moments of time. When you decide you're going to get married, have a kid, sell your business.
How many kids do you have? You said 3?
We have 2 kids, and we adopted a kid that was in high school that we took in. So
amazing. What does fatherhood mean to you? Change topic.
It's everything. I mean, I think that a lot of times, and this is a big thing that when you talk about having sold a company, it's like, I wanted to be a really successful business person. I'm not going to lie. And I wanted to make a lot of money too. I'm not going to lie. I always had a goal that I wanted to really do well. I didn't know what that exactly meant, but I also had a goal that I wanted to be a good dad and a good husband. And I think I also want to be a guy that was relatively healthy. I didn't want to grow older and, be in a wheelchair or going to doctor's office every week. And I think sometimes people only get into this one lane highway of success.
Yeah.
They think because you've made a lot of money that makes you successful. But if your kids hate you and you end up being divorced and you end up not healthy, how successful are you?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing I wrote in my last book, Living on Purpose. Like if you want to get the whole Steiner story, go to my website. They're free. Just pay for the shipping. You got to have balls. It's a great book. And if you really want to understand what the importance of not only being successful, but what you need to do with success and what you're going to do after successful, which is the book I wrote right after I became financially successful, get the book Living on Purpose. I've written 3 books. I love all 3 of them, but you can go to my site, pick any one of them, get it for free. And I highly recommend it. The book I've gotten, and I'm half illiterate. I can't read and write. And I've written 3 books and over 2,000 blogs on brandonsteiner.com. So go figure. That's the shit that I love. I love when people keep telling me, you can't do this, you can't do that. You got to limit yourself. Like, why?
It lights the fire, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So how long have you been married now for?
33.
Congratulations. I'm going on to 19. My parents, my father just recently passed, and my parents were married for 51 years. And it's nowadays it's special. It's special being able to have that commitment, right?
I saw my wife. I met her when I was 17. I looked in her eyes and I said, this is the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life arguing with. I mean, there's no question. But I think the key thing is, I married, you come to realize
that's going to be our punchline for the show. You realize that.
When you look at my wife, it's always daunting because, I married a beautiful woman, but also a woman a lot smarter than me.
Which is key.
It's well, in general, women are smarter than men in general. So it's not hard to find a woman smarter than you, but I found a woman who was a lot smarter than me. And it's very problematic when you make 100 decisions and 97 of them, she's right. Every now and then I get a crumb, every now and then, like 1 out of like every 30, maybe I could possibly be right. Maybe. So, but I think it is important to marry over your head and marry and realize that, and also faster you realize that women are a lot smarter than you in general, and that your wife is generally going to be smarter than you. The faster you can keep that marriage going.
I love it. So as an entrepreneur, I already know the answer, but retirement is not a question, is it? You're going to keep building, keep growing all the way through.
There's different variations of retirement. I'm getting older now. I think about varying the way I go about my work and my job. I love working. It's all I really know, but I'm definitely looking into other things. And I think as an entrepreneur, you get so out of your head and into other people's heads and everything. It's very consuming, but I think it's important. And I'm really working on this. I'm not good at it, but hobbies, I'm taking up golf. I've only taken up golf. I was taking up guitar. It didn't work out for me, but I was trying. I'm definitely looking at doing some other things.
How many times a week do you play basketball?
I play basketball twice a week. I have a court in my house, so I can control the game.
Yeah.
I play twice a week, and then I have a basketball trainer that I let use my gym to, work me out, because, at my age, you have to perpetually keep working at it. Otherwise, the good Lord will take that game away from you. It's not a young person. It's not an older person's game, but I love playing it. I live to play it. So, but I also know there'll be a day I won't be able to play it. So
good for you though. That's awesome. I have one more question for you.
I mean, last night when I got off the court with 20 of my closest friends.
So you have a full, are you in a league?
No, I have my own indoor full court.
Yeah.
So
everybody comes over and plays.
Oh, no doubt.
I love it.
And I was on fire last night. I mean, I just played so well. And I always walk off the court, I go, thank you, God, for allowing that to just happen. Thank you. I was lighting it up. And, listen, because at my age, like I can get on the court and really be bad too. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the body just is like not interested. It does, when you get older, like
do you want me to ask you how old are you?
I'm 62.
62. You're still young.
So, there are days you get on the court and you're like, I probably got to get off this court at some point because this is not working very well. And then there are times I get on, I feel like I'm 25, so.
I love it. I have a question for you, and I ask everybody at the end of our podcast. If something were to happen to you today, in a few words, how would you want to be remembered or described by your loved ones?
I just would like to be remembered as somebody who was extremely relentless and worked hard for, he worked hard, tried to make a difference. He was a good dad and was generous. I really try to think, it matters to me how people think, and I try to be a generous person. I try to help people as often, as much as I can. Yeah. And I hope that the only thing I would tell my kids, if one of them should read, a little bit about Brandon Steiner at my funeral, and say, listen, as my dad had an impact on your life, anybody that showed up, did he have an impact? Did he make a little bit of a difference? Was he able to give you some guidance, help you in some way? And hopefully I've helped some people in some way. One of the things that question hits a nerve on is that my father's funeral at 11, we didn't have enough people to have a minyan in Jewish. You need 10 people to have the funeral. We didn't have 10 people at my dad's funeral. And it was very heartbreaking, that we only had, it was me, my two brothers, my mom, the rabbi, my father's sister, and one other person. We were short. And I was like, damn, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with this life. I said this at 11, but I'm going to make sure that we're not struggling to find 10 people for my funeral. I've got to have made a bigger difference than more people who want to come and just say goodbye. Then my dad only had, 7 people, which it was very discouraging. And it's on my mind to not let something like that happen.
That's powerful. That's very, very powerful. I love it. This has been an incredible conversation. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, and somehow we made it work. And
yes.
I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do. Like I said, I've interviewed really high level celebrities on this show, and I was actually looking forward to talking to you probably more than anybody I've had in a while. So thank you for this. Anytime you're in Toronto, I would love to take you out for dinner and hang out for a bit. And I appreciate it. Anything you want to leave with our audience before we go?
No, thank you. Love Toronto, by the way. One of my favorite cities when I get to visit. So maybe I'll take you up on that. And go to the website, go to collectibleexchange.com and get the free copy of the book. And if you have anything you want to sell, it's easy to put the stuff up. Or if you're looking for some really unusual items, and hopefully for all you collectors out there, thank you for the support.
I'm going to put all in our show notes and all our links to the website, to the books, to everything, and to social media. And once again, thank you so much, brother.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Brendan, for taking time. It was an incredibly busy schedule to be a guest on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. Great conversation. I was kind of a little fanboy today, and really, really enjoyed this conversation. If you guys enjoyed as much as I have, like all weeks, spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family, leave a review. Myself, my staff love spending time reading all the reviews. Until next week, guys, keep moving forward.